I'm Charlie and today we're going to look at 12 biggest animals ever caught. But before we get into it, why not subscribe and press the notification bell too. Coming up first, we have Panama crocodile. Panama is a tiny country located in Central America, but in 2014, locals got a shock when a gigantic monster croc was caught by the Panama Canal. This was near Colon at the north end of the canal. The large crocodile had to be harnessed with gigantic strong ropes. And as you can see, passers-by as well as army personnel are taking photos of this gigantic catch. The catch was so big they actually had to temporarily close the highway. And according to PanamaGuide.com, the crocodile was later released. So make sure you don't go swimming in the Panama Canal. You might just have an encounter with a monster crocodile. Next up is bat. Right now, there's a lot of talk about bats and how dangerous they may be. That's of course because the current coronavirus began with bats. This was then spread to humans, infecting tens of thousands. But in 2015, the scariest bat of all was captured in the Philippines. Many headlines call this bat human size, but judging by the army personnel below it, it's a lot bigger than human size. Its wingspan is much closer to 10 humans, and this type of bat is called a giant golden-crowned flying fox bat. At first, some people thought this was the mystical chupacabra. That's actually a myth, but what's in this image is totally real and terrifying too. These bats are a species of fruit bats and they're actually classified as megabats. Next up, we have shark. Sharks are terrifying animals, especially great white sharks. But in 2012, some Mexican fishermen put on a brave face, and they went on to capture the biggest ever great white shark. That is, the largest which has ever been captured by man. The shark was 20,000 pounds in weight and over 20 feet long. The fishermen were actually commercial fishermen hunting for other fish. But seeing as you can eat shark, I assume they made quite a lot of money from this. After the fishermen caught this animal, around 24 beachgoers hauled the animal onto ground. But it's a good thing the shark was not alive when this happened, as it could easily take out an entire village. Next up, we have squid. One day, some fishermen in New Zealand were on the San Aspirin. This was the name of their gigantic ship. But their ship didn't look all that big when they encountered a mega squid. When people use the term sea monsters, this is what they're talking about. This catch happened in the raw sea, and the team actually gave this squid to scientists so they could study it in greater detail. The squid lived around 6,000 feet underwater, but after it was baited by the fishermen, it was able to be captured. But despite it being so big, it's actually not as difficult to capture as compared to a great white shark. That's because squids are very sedated and subdued. The way they work as a predator is to lie in wait deep below the ocean. They then wait for small fish to swim above them and then strike. Next up is rat. I'm pretty sure the one thing to make anyone, no matter how manly they are, freak out is to see a rat inside their house. That is, unless you live in New York, where you're probably used to them by now. Well, one day a gas engineer from North London made a shocking discovery. He was working on a block of flats when he saw a rat which was 4 feet long. The rat weighed around 25 pounds. Fellow gas worker James Green held it up so he could take some pictures, and they soon went viral for how scary and gross this animal is. Many think this is likely the largest rat ever caught. In some African countries, giant rats are a big problem and actually eat people while they sleep. But according to this image, it seems like it's a problem in the UK too. Yeah, probably time for me to move. Next up is snake. Countries like Cambodia are famous for having big snakes that can be caught. But of course, this happens out in the wild. However, the largest snake ever caught was actually found on a construction site in Malaysia. It took 6 workmen to secure this snake and capture it. The snake is 26 feet in length and also weighs nearly 600 pounds. And this gigantic breed of snake can actually expand its body to eat an entire human being. But thankfully for these workmen, they found the snake while it was not alive. The snake had recently laid an egg which had caused complications and thus it passed away. But if I was working in that construction site, I'd be worried about where that egg may hatch. Next up is fish. Everyone loves Nemo the fish, but would you find him as cute if he was the same size or bigger than you? Well, that's similar to what this opafish looks like. When this image went viral online, many people thought it was the largest goldfish ever. But no, instead it's the largest Opa fish ever. Fisherman Joe Luglow caught this on one very lucky day, and the fish weighed nearly 200 pounds. I think it's pretty amazing that the fish was caught by an amateur fisherman in California, USA. Next up is crocodile. In 2011, an entire village in the Philippines all had to pitch in. That's because a 1-ton crocodile was scaring the villagers. The crocodile, which was 21 feet long, is thought to be one of the biggest ever caught alive. Locals were able to transport it using some wheels and wooden logs. They also had to tie it down with rope, as it could get very dangerous. They later used a crane to lift it onto a truck. 21 people were involved in the entire operation, and it kind of looks like a prop from the movie Primeval to me. Next up we have frog. Frogs are yet another animal which are pretty small and not too interesting. But check out this catch of a Goliath frog. This is a rare species of frog which is gigantic and is known for a yellow belly. The frog was around 14 inches long and weighed around 7.5 pounds. The guy who caught this does not look happy, but he should do, because this is an amazing discovery and a world record too. This frog was caught in Gabon, West Africa, and there were also a local delicacy there, so perhaps the guy ate the frog after this photo was taken. But hopefully he didn't, because these frogs are becoming endangered thanks to them being eaten so much. Hey, don't knock it till you try it. Next up we have alligator. We've seen a few scary crocodiles on this list, but now let's check out the alligator. This image was taken in the alligator capital of the world, Florida, USA. Hunters were able to capture this 800-pound alligator. Believe it or not, it wasn't all the kid. You may think this is kind of mean, but the alligator had been eating many cows on their farms. The alligator is 15 feet long and very, very scary. Later on, they donated the meat to charity and had the creature stuffed. Not exactly the kind of home decor I would want, but each to their own. And finally on the list, we have Queensland crocodile. Now let's head to the scary creature capital of the world, Australia. In 2016, this dinosaur-sized crocodile was captured in North Queensland. Pappenheim Patterson, who first saw this animal, actually thought it was a dinosaur at first. The person who discovered this, Pappenheim Patterson, actually thought it was a dinosaur at first. The monster is over 30 feet long, and they had to get a professional known as Crocodile Mick to wrangle this croc, the scariest ocean creatures caught on camera. Coming up first, we have Shapeshifter. We all know the concept of shapeshifting in sci-fi, but based on this footage underwater, that may well be a reality. This footage was taken 3,700 feet underwater. The footage, which was captured by a diving team back in 2013, shows what appears to be a bizarre-looking symbol. It kind of looks like a cool tattoo, but it's floating underwater. It glides right across the ocean floor, and you may think it's litter or man-made. But then this happens. As you can see, it transforms into a cube. It also seems to have red, yellow, and orange lights on its head. It kind of looks like an alien spaceship or an alien creature. The lights then flicker blue and green. Some think this may be a ctenophora, that is basically a large glowing jellyfish. But those things don't shapeshift like this thing does. And they're also transparent, not dark black. Next up is giant megalodon. Megalodons are said to be the largest species of shark of all time. They lived approximately 23 to 3.6 million years ago, but many say that megalodons still exist and are not extinct. After all, there's been many sightings of them, and most of the ocean is unexplored. One such video of a possible megalodon was taken in Pakistan. The shark in this footage is 40 feet long, much bigger than any normal shark. It was washed up and then captured by the harbour authorities of Pakistan. They used a construction crane to lift its body onto the harbour. You can see the shark is malnourished, as it's not had any food in a long time. But perhaps if it had eaten, it would look as big or bigger than a megalodon. Apparently this was never properly identified, and they simply dumped the specimen. Sadly, no marine scientists were let near it. But if they were, perhaps we would have got confirmation that megalodons indeed still exist. Next up is Ninjin. We all know of Western underwater creature folklore, for example, the Loch Ness Monster in Scotland. But Japan has their very own mysterious creatures, which many say are myths. Ninjin is said to be a humanoid life form that is off the coast of Japan. It was originally discovered in 2004 by Japanese whale researchers. And in one video from the Japanese Agency for Marine Earth Science and Technology, you can see what appears to be a ninjin. This gigantic creature seems to have eyes and a mouth. The creature looks harmless and playful, but the legend says that ninjins are deadly. Some have said this creature is simply a whale, but there's no species of whale that looks anything like this. So is this a ninjin, or is it a different creature we've never discovered before? Either way, it's very amazing and pretty creepy too. Next up is turtle snake. One day, someone was on St. Simons Island near Florida in 2018. When they were walking by the coast, they stumbled across something they thought was a log. When they got closer, they realized it was not a log of wood, but instead a bizarre sea creature. This creature has the head of a turtle, but the body of a snake. It also has fins on either side of its body. The man, named Jeff Warren, quickly pulled out his camera and began recording. Sadly, scientists have not identified this creature, but even after looking at marine biology forum posts about this, no one could be sure as to what it was. Leave a comment below if you think you know what this bizarre creature could be. Coming up next is Megalodon versus whale. If megalodons still exist, then they would be the ultimate underwater predators. Very few people have ever seen what they claim to be megalodons. And when megalodons have been caught on camera, they're usually washed up. This video was taken in the open waters by a fisherman. He was recording a large whale which was near his boat at night. But then the unbelievable happens. A gigantic creature many say is a megalodon scoops up the animal. It threw the whale up into the air and then pushes it back down. This causes a massive splash in the water and the fishermen freak out. This may well have been a megalodon as it was able to pick up a whale. Whales weigh about 200 tons. That's around 200 great white sharks. Leave me a comment telling me if you think this is a megalodon or a different underwater creature. Next up is Champ. Champ is a mysterious underwater piece of folklore you may not have heard about before. Champ is the name of a lake monster said to live in Lake Champlain. This is a 125-mile long body of fresh water shared by New York and Vermont. There's also a portion which extends into Quebec, Canada. Many people in the areas of Burlington, Vermont, Plattsburgh and New York report seeing Champ. Based on the very few images of it, it has a similar appearance to the Loch Ness Monster. Well, this footage taken by fishermen appears to corroborate the scary story of Champ. The New York fishermen see the creature poke its head out from the surface of the water. The fishermen went on the news to say this was only a small part of the large creature they saw. Every year there's around 20 sightings of Champ at the lake. 2 former FBI agents actually verified this footage the fishermen took. Next up is Ghost Squid. This footage comes from the oil company Shell. Shell have oil refineries in oceans all over the world. These go incredibly deep and they have cameras right at the ocean's floor. In 2008, one of Shell's cameras caught this bizarre alien-like creature. The odd and gigantic creature was near one of their oil platforms. This was off the coast of the USA, around 200 miles from Texas. Some say this is a Magna pinna squid. These are gigantic squids with very, very long tentacles. But this one does look slightly different, and to this day many say it's alien life. Next up is Toxic Mystery. This may well be a creature, but it's so mysterious we don't really know. In the summer of 2016, residents of Florida found a toxic sludge inside their waters. The sludge was like a green and grey algae. 4 counties in Florida declared a state of emergency as this stuff was dangerous. The algae would smell terrible and would cause people to be sick if they smelt it. If you touched it, it would cause skin and stomach irritation. It also gave people headaches and other forms of sickness and burned people's eyes. But the question everyone asked was, why is this happening? Some blamed climate change, and others blamed energy and fertilizer companies dumping things into the waters. This may well have been toxic waste dumped from a chemical factory. This could have mutated into algae, creating a toxic mess. It's still a massive scandal, and I think someone out there is responsible. But 4 years later, this mystery is still yet to be solved. And next up, we have Deep Megalodon. This is a piece of Megalodon footage, but it's taken deeper than any other piece of Megalodon footage ever. In 2006, these aquatic researchers were at the ocean's floor. This is where pretty much no one goes because it takes absolutely ages to get down there and it can be very dangerous and expensive. That's when they see a creature that looks like an oversized shark. This was recorded at 3,300 feet below sea level. The researchers used 2 red laser dots to try and estimate its size, and it is indeed the size of a potential megalodon. 10 scariest insects on Earth. Coming up first, we have assassin bug. Can you think of a more friendly name than an assassin bug? Well, these bugs don't have that name because they're so cute and friendly. In fact, their natural behavior is something straight out of Game of Thrones. These bugs are part of the Reduvidae family, and there are many different species of these bugs. However, all of them can transmit very scary diseases onto humans. This includes Chagas disease. This is an infectious disease which causes your skin to inflame. It also damages your heart, organs, and body tissues. They got their name assassin bugs because they're known to strike very quickly. They have long, sharp beaks which they use to quickly stab their prey. They also inject enzymes into their prey which causes their insides to go all soft, and then they suck out their prey's insides like a smoothie. One species of this bug found in Malaysia even glues the corpses of other bugs to its back. It kind of uses them as a form of armor. So if you see a bug covered in dead bug bodies, then run. Next up is giant orb weaving spider. If you don't like spiders, then stay well away from Australia. Down under you get an insect known as the giant orb weaver. You may think that spiders like to eat small insects like worms and mites. But these spiders are so scary they eat birds. That's right, very large birds are sometimes eaten by giant orb weaving spiders. And the spiders can actually grow pretty big themselves. Sometimes they can be the size of a human hand. And in even more tropical climates, they can be even bigger. So they're humongous, venomous, and eat birds. I think that qualifies them to be one of the scariest insects known to man and bird. Next up is saddleback caterpillar. Now these things look pretty cute. It's almost as if they're wearing a Christmas sweater. But while these things may look cute, they act very scary. They're found all over the southern states of the USA. Many hikers sometimes run into them, and because they look so fascinating, they pick them up. But these hikers don't realize that they're covered in venomous hairs. If you touch them, they will arch your back onto you. They will then stick as many spines and hairs into you as possible. And of course it injects you with a venom which could take you out. Yeah, not so cute anymore. Next up is curved spiny spider. This is another scary spider you do not want to mess with. These live in the trees in Southeast Asia. You know they're around if you see orb-like webs, because that's what they build. Their bodies are 10 millimeters long, which is pretty small, but they have gigantic horns which are a lot longer. Not only do they have massive horns, they also have spikes around the edges of their bodies. In countries where these are found, they're known to terrify children. Not only do they look scary, but they also love to bite humans. Now, thankfully, their bites are unlikely to take you out, but they could definitely cause a rash or an illness. And if you're allergic, then you may well pass away due to one of these bites. Frankly, they're much more scary to their prey, which involves any small insects in the jungles where they live. Next up is Asian giant hornet. I'm sure when you were a kid, your parents said if you see a hornet, then run. But did they tell you about giant hornets? It's no secret all hornets can take humans' lives, but giant Asian hornets are even worse. Their body length is 5 centimeters and their wingspan is 8 centimeters. That's already because they're so much bigger than a wasp or bee. Thankfully though, you will hear them coming as they're incredibly loud, around 10 times louder than a wasp. They feed off other insects, for example honeybees. Sometimes they'll even go into a beehive and take out the entire hive. And while they don't eat humans, they do take their lives. Their venom is powerful enough to disintegrate human skin. One person who survived an Asian giant hornet's sting said it's like a hot nail going through my leg. That does not sound very nice to me. In 2013, there was a gigantic plague of these in China. Over 41 people passed away and 1,600 were injured. Next up is army ants. Did you know that all of the ants in the world weigh more than all of the humans in the world? That's right, that's how many ants there are on this planet. It's thought in the world there's 1 million billion ants in the world. That may sound like a made-up number, but it isn't. It looks like this. Army ants are polymorphic. This means that different ants in their colony have different appearances. They can be 2 to 13 millimeters in length. This means they can eat creatures way bigger than them, for example snakes. They overwhelm their prey with their weight and then tear them apart. They have pincers which can dispense acid which dissolves their prey. If you ever run into a colony of army ants, then stay totally still. They detect their prey by movement. One survivor said their sting is so painful it feels like you've been shot. They said it was intense pain, describing it as, quote, like walking over flaming charcoal with a 4-inch rusty nail in your heel. Yeah, that does not sound comfortable to me. Next up is Atlas beetle. These beetles are gigantic with big horns, and that's why their nickname is the rhinoceros beetle. They're one of the biggest beetles in the world, measuring around 6 inches long, and their horns make up a third of that. They have many different spikes on them too, which allows them to flip over their prey. Their legs are also covered in sharp spikes, and its big horns can easily go through human skin. They are mainly found in Southeast Asia. They live longer than most beetles, about 4 to 5 years. And while they don't eat humans, they do bite them. This bite usually won't take you out unless you're allergic, but it will still hurt and possibly give you an infection. Next up is camel spider. This isn't some kind of bizarre hybrid of a camel and a spider, although that would be cool and scary. No, these bugs are found all over North Africa and the Middle East. These spiders can be over 8 inches long, and while they don't look like a spider, they are one as they have 8 legs. Their jaws make up a third of their length, and they also give a very painful bite to humans. They rose to fame when American soldiers in Afghanistan kept finding them in their boots. They go into people's boots as they want to find shade in hot environments. But this is not good when you put your boots on because they bite your feet. This can sometimes take humans' lives if they're allergic. But that is definitely a bad surprise for any of those soldiers in Afghanistan. Next up is Amazonian giant centipede. These guys didn't get their name for no reason. They can be up to a foot long in length. That's right, these are as big as that sandwich you had for lunch. They're found all over Central and South America. They have front pincers which can stick into your skin. Through them, they deliver a potent venom. This can be incredibly painful as it's acidic, and in some cases it can even take a human's life. Normally they eat very small animals like birds, rodents, bats, lizards, and spiders. And these are also known to crawl up people's trouser legs in places where they're found. So if you ever take a trip to South America, then tuck your trousers into your socks. Otherwise you may get a very creepy, crawly surprise. Next up is Goliath spider. Goliath spiders are called that because they are the biggest spiders of all. They're about a foot across, bigger than most people's faces. They hunt their prey by building a mat of silk. Then when a mouse runs over it, they're stuck. That's right, these things take out large animals like rats and mice. They also have fangs inside their mouth which are an inch long. Their bite feels like a wasp or bee sting, and unless you're allergic, it's uncommon that these would take your life. But just looking at how big these things are is so terrifying. Because they're so big, they store up a lot of web which allows them to build webs and big traps very quickly and easily. They're found in various countries but mainly in northern South America. You know what, I think I might cancel my trip to South America now. Animals with bizarre colors. Coming up first, we have black lion. These black lions are gigantic felines. They're also incredibly rare. Of course, many people know of white lions, which are pretty rare. And there's always the classic orange lions we all know and love. But these black lions are super rare and are very adept at night hunting. They're almost never sighted, but in 2017, National Geographic caught one in Ethiopia on camera. They are originally from Ethiopia and were first seen in the mid-1930s. Some say a genetic mutation of a lion cub made these black lions. Next up is pink dolphin. Dolphins are amazing animals that humans love to see and sometimes even swim with. But have you ever witnessed a pink dolphin? This really looks like something you'd see with a rainbow in the background in some mystical land. But no, these are actually known as the Amazon River dolphins. And the color is actually due to the kind of water the dolphins live in. The darker the water is, the pinker the dolphin will be. The sun's rays cause the dolphins to lose their pigmentation. So if dolphins are in dark water, they will get less sun and stay pink. So these things began in the Amazon, but they've since been taken out of their natural habitat. And now you can even see them on the Gulf of Mexico and in the USA. Next up we have red slug. These red slugs are known as the European red slug. However, they've also been found in Australia, the home of bizarre animals. In Australia, these were discovered first in New South Wales, and they named them the hot pink slug. They kind of look like a flamin' hot Cheeto, but I would not recommend eating one of these. Not only because this 8-inch insect would not taste good, but Australia legally protects them. These aren't just like ants you can squash under your foot. These things are legally protected like a cat or a dog, or a kangaroo for that case. Next up we have Venus the cat. So this is not some kind of species of animal, but one specific cat in particular. The cat is named Venus and it has two faces. Now I don't mean this cat's deceitful, I mean it literally has two different faces. One half of its face is black with a green eye, and the other half is orange with a blue eye. This cat, which is a chimera cat, was found on the internet on Facebook and went viral, and it now has over 2 million followers on Instagram. Yep, we all know that moment when a cat has more followers than you do. But you can see why she's so famous, not just because of her looks, but she looks so sweet too. And according to her owner, the cat does not even scratch furniture. This really does seem like it may be the dream cat. Next up is Rosy Maple Moth.